Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective. Happy Thursday. We're on Things to Think on Thursday. I have a little thing that I jotted down out of my head this morning that I'm going to talk about a little bit. But I don't think today's going to be a very long show because my brain... And we're going to get into that because I was talking about how this week it's been a lot about healing. And, you know, the things we need to do to heal, the processes we go through. So I'll get into a little bit of that in a moment. But first, we have our morning mantras. Our morning mantras. So, let's see. That looks delightful. I'll do my best today no matter what. Even if my best is way less than perfect, it still counts. This is the perfect card for today. This is the perfect card for today. Again, I'll do my best today no matter what. Even if my best is way less than perfect, it still counts. So it does still count. We don't need to shoot for perfection. What we need to shoot for is whatever is best for us in each moment, for each day. If you can't do one day at a time, do one moment at a time. Do a little bit at a time. But sometimes we push ourselves so hard that, we just kind of upend ourselves. And then we end up struggling. So again, even if it's way less than perfect, it still counts. All right? It still counts. Like just like with that birthday cake, right? And it was falling apart. I am by no means a professional baker, but I like to bake, and I like to come up with weird stuff, and I like to cook, and I like to come up with weird stuff. But I don't do it as often as I should. But I do know one time, Sibling and I were like, ooh, this cake is so good, I want to try it. I failed at the marble glaze. Okay, because, I thought, well, it's my first time, but I watch all these cooking shows, it'll be great. No, it was not great. But I forget. Not everybody, nails it the first time around, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, I had like the plastic thing around it, to kind of layer it. And it started falling apart, like the whipped cream stuff I had in the middle. I'm like, I just don't understand why it's falling apart. Well, I forgot one key thing. Just because there were strawberries on the outside, I thought, oh, well, that must be what holds up the cake. Yeah, girl, but there's a whole middle, right? And I didn't put strawberries around every layer. So instead, I just put it on the rims. And it just started, whew. But older sibling was like, I don't care what you think it looks like, it tastes really good. So, and that's what's supposed to matter. It's not always about presentation. It's about, what you're getting out of it, what the flavors of it are. And that's like life. It may not always look perfect. It may not always be perfect. You may not always feel perfect. And it's like I've said in the past, on past perspectives, I think perfection is a myth. I really do. Yeah, we say practice makes perfect, and yeah, you might get something done right, but, I'm talking about perfection on the whole. It's not the same as coming up with a dance routine and everybody gets it perfect every single time. That's practice and practice and practice, but I'm talking about life. I'm talking about how there are going to be things that upend us. There are going to be things that, just make us feel like we're being thrown to the wolves. And if we're shooting for some kind of perfection and this thing comes up and just kind of whaps you upside the head, you're not doing yourself any favors because now you're trying to rush through it. Sorry. Don't know what that was. But you're trying to rush through it. You're trying to get through something because you don't want to deal with it because it's messing with the perfection. Don't worry about that part. All right? Again, for me, I think the best thing to be is perfectly imperfect. That's the truest perfection, perfectly imperfect. And again, I'm not talking about, sketches or routines or plays or all these things where, almost every single night people nail it. People nail it because that practice makes perfect. Again, I'm referring to life. Life. Watch a TV show, right? The interesting thing about, technology nowadays, you can watch a TV show, and maybe it's a TV show you absolutely 100% love, and you think, wow, these people are so amazing, they nail it every time. It's a TV show. There's a lot of stuff that never makes it into the final product, especially if you're watching an hour-long show. And, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, I love the show so much, I'm going to buy the DVD set for season whatever, or maybe all the seasons. and they have blooper reels. So see, even they're not perfect. They make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But we can either laugh at it or we can punish ourselves for it. And I highly suggest that you choose the former and laugh at it, because that's what we need to do. Sometimes that's all we need to do is just laugh at it. You know, like yesterday, right? So yesterday I'm all like, I don't know what's happening to me today. I don't have any caffeine in my system, blah, 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 blah. I haven't even had coffee. You know, I had coffee. Well, this morning, older siblings, oh, well, what kind of coffee do you want? Because, you know, she likes to make coffee. So I'm all like, well, what other kind is there? It's like, I thought I only had, because I drink decaf normally. I mean, I can have caffeine from time to time, but normally I drink decaf. And, which to me says, I really do love coffee. But she's like, well, yesterday was pumpkin spice. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm all sibling. It's like, I drank almost all of that before my show. And she's all like, well, I think we have some more. I'm like, no, that was the last one. And I was saving that one for the day I really needed caffeine. Sorry guys, I thought I turned my alarm off, but I guess I didn't. I told her, I said, here I was telling everybody that I didn't have caffeine yesterday and I don't know why I'm so ramped up and blah, blah, blah. And I had caffeine yesterday. And, you know, maybe in the past, this damaged part of me would have been like, oh my God, I can't believe that you made me lie, la, la, la. But I laughed and I'm like, well, I said, that explains a lot. And it did explain a lot. And when I say about this former me, I'm not trying to make myself look like an asshole. That was a hurt person that hurt people. In fact, this book I'm reading right now called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. I think that's his name, Bessel van der Kolk. But it was talking about yesterday was about neuroscience, you know, the science, well, you know, the science of your brain. And he was talking about a study they did. And they had people with trauma, and, you know, they had this very specific formulated script that they worked with each patient to get right, so that, you know, because they didn't want to cause any extra trauma, but they were bringing these people back into their trauma, whatever their trauma was. It was all kinds of different things, you know, and they were talking about how different parts of the brain light up, you know, versus, you know, when the trauma's being, you know, the trauma's being spoken about versus when it's not, versus when they're just in that moment. And what I found interesting, and I have some theories about other things too, but what I found interesting was the part where he said a lot of times, you know, your brain will fire off, but he was talking about left brain and right brain. He was talking about left brain and right brain and how different they are, like the right brain being more creative, expressive, emotional, the left brain being more logical and whatnot. And he says a lot of times when people have suffered these things, the left brain kind of shuts down. And that's what they were noticing in these scans. The brain had shut down on the left side, just kind of not physically shut down, but figuratively. It just, well, in a way, literally too, it stopped. The logic was gone because it was being overpowered by this, you know, consistently going emotional side of it. And then he talked about how sometimes, you know, if something triggers you, you know, it triggers you so hard that your logical side just shuts down because it doesn't know what to do. And then you might move past it, but then the first person that comes into your crosshairs, which is my word, I use the word crosshairs because, you know, they're going to be the ones that get it. They're the ones that you're going to just spew your venom at because you're hurting. But the trigger has nowhere to go. So, you know, it's like, and he gave examples like, well, this is your fault because you were 10 minutes late, or this is your fault because you burnt the potatoes, or this is your fault because you don't listen to me. And these are all the examples that they gave, right? Kind of silly. You know, you're 10 minutes late, so this is why I'm just, you know, foaming at the mouth and fuming. Or you burnt the potatoes. Oh no, I mean, come on, those are just French fries. Or potato chips, right? I mean, there's always a workaround. Or you never listen to me, even though the person is literally standing there listening to you. You're just like, well, you never listen to me. And I've done these things, especially the last one, which sometimes I think people aren't listening to me, like they're hearing me, but not listening. But that's a whole different subject. But then I started thinking back, when I have done that, you're not listening to me, have I been triggered? Was it something that's so subtle that I didn't even notice it anymore? So these are things we have to work on. These are things that, come up that we're not sure about, but we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect. The reason I think perfection is a myth in everyday life is because once you achieve this, then you're like, well, what next? No one ever seems happy, right? It's like that song from Hamilton. I don't know if it was called Satisfied, but whatever it was, where she's singing and she's talking about how he'll never be satisfied. Like there's always more and more and more that he's striving for. Like, this point is not enough. There has to be more. Or that point, when he gets there, it's not enough. It has to be more. And that's probably my very first ever Hamilton reference. I think older sibling might give me a trophy for that one. But yeah, I mean, it's things like that. Where we're just constantly striving for this perfection that may or may not exist. And in my opinion, doesn't. Because we're always wanting more. You get that satisfaction and then you want more. And, you're trying to emotionally fill a hole that might be there with some kind of misplaced idea of perfection. And again, that's just my perception. That's just my perspective. But I know for me personally, there is no level of perfection. I've kept trying to achieve it for so long. And every time I did, it would feel like I'd get right to the top and then the cliff would fall. And then I'd go tumbling down to the bottom. Broken, damaged, everything else. And feeling so unaccomplished because I never thought about how high I had to climb just to get there. I thought about the fact that I didn't reach it. Think of all these people, right, that try to attempt to climb Mount Everest. I can imagine how hard it must be to come this close and not make it all the way to the top. But you have to choose between your life and you have to choose between getting there. And somewhere in the middle, you may not make it, but you may lose your life. I mean, they say the amount of people that have just been left on that mountain is crazy. It's insane. Because there's no way to bring them down. And I'm not saying don't try it and, don't quit. But sometimes I think we push ourselves so hard that we push ourselves past our limits. Like we want to ascend just like that. We want to be there just like that. And sometimes it takes work. I mean, you can't just go to Mount Everest and climb it. No, it's a weeks-long process because they don't want you to die on the mountain. Their goal is to get you back safely. Get you to the top, but also get you back safely. But then that's just it. What happens once you reach that top? I believe that's the highest mountain in the world. I believe it is. Don't quote me on that. But it sure seems like it since everybody's really trying to go up there. And hey, kudos to everybody that does. And a lot of people do that. And for them, that is the pinnacle of what, life is. It's being at the top of the world. But there are other people who will get there and say, well, what am I going to do now? I've just conquered this mountain. What's next? How far deep in the ocean can I swim before I explode? Bad example, but that's my point. We have to, if we reach that level, find the joy in it. Not just, well, I got here, now what? Look back. See what you had to go through to get to that point. I would guess that, the majority of the people that climb to Mount Everest and stand on the top think, wow, all my hard work just paid off. And now this is something I can talk about. This is something I can say I did. Versus, well, now what? No, they're enjoying that moment. When you get to your peak, enjoy that moment. Don't go looking for the next big peak. Don't go looking for the next, what thing can I perfect now? Look at what all the work you put into it. Give yourself the kudos. So I think that's actually a really good segue. I didn't even mean to go that deep into the morning mantra, but I wrote this down this morning and it kind of covers exactly what it is I was talking about. I didn't even mean to make my own segue. It just kind of happened. So, I didn't know what to talk about today. Yesterday I thought, well, I told everybody I'd think of something really good today and blah, blah. And then last night I was halfway through writing things like 7 common cons your brain tries to tell you. And I thought, no. Not every brain is the same. I mean, but let's put it this way. I do my best to, oh God, see, this is my brain today. And this is kind of where I'm at and why I almost canceled the show today, but I thought, no. I said, people need to see mental health in action, or dinged up mental health in action. So I am a heavy advocate for mental health awareness. But what I also feel people who don't have a dinged up mental health can get out of this is how to understand somebody's brain. We're not any different, but here's the example I came up with for myself when I was brushing my teeth to talk about. 2 people can go through the exact same experience. They could have the exact same reaction to the experience, but the recovery time might be different. So if you're over here, and you do not have a dinged up mental health, you're probably going to be like, oh, screw that, those people are dumb. Whereas the person with the mental health, the dinged up mental health, now this doesn't mean this is what's going to happen. Sometimes they're just like the person over here and says, screw those people. But sometimes, depending on the day they're having, they might be, did I do something wrong? Was there something more I could have done? Instead of seeing the people for as dumb as they were being, like the person over here did, person number A, person number B is going, oh, they might take it personally. They might get a little more emotional about it. And so when we understand that sometimes people's recovery time is a lot different, we can help them. So person over here, A, may say, hey, you know what? I don't know, we'll just say my spouse has a dinged up mental health. And they may recognize that in this person, person number B or person B, and say, what can I do for you? What can I, don't worry about those people. It's like, I see you're processing it here, but you know what? They were dumb. And you can slowly guide them out before they spiral. And that's not always going to happen. You're not always going to be able to guide them out. You can't fix them. But you can figuratively take their hand and try to guide them back into the light before they spiral too far into the darkness. Now, you can flip the scenario. Person B, who has a dinged up mental health, may say, oh, their behavior is extremely manipulative. But person A might just be this person who's just like, they do their job, they do everything. It's like, well, how could they say that? That doesn't mean they have a dinged up mental health. It just means maybe they're taking it a little personally because maybe they worked hard on this project with person B. And person B, recognizing this in their own selves, could say, hey, don't take it personally. These people are dumb. They have no idea. And by tomorrow, they'll probably look it over again. The big boss will come back and say, oh, this is a great idea. And all of a sudden, they're going to be like, oh, okay. Because all those people that are making them feel bad might be people pleasers. They might be people who don't know how to, make themselves happy. So they got to bring other people down. It's everywhere. Sometimes we do it to other people without even realizing it. We don't go through life never not being the bad guy. Okay? At some point, we're all going to be the bad guy. Or girl. Sorry, the bad person. At some point, we are. We're all going to be the bad person. We're going to be that person that hurts somebody and doesn't mean to, but we do. We're going to be that hurt person that hurts people, whether you have a dinged up mental health or you don't. But what I'm hoping with the perspective is exactly that. It's not called the Aloha Mental Advocate. No, it's called the Aloha Perspective. Because I'm trying to share perspectives from both sides. Because I've been on both sides. There was a time when I absolutely 100% ignored my mental health. But I would see other people struggling. And so I would do my best to try to pull them out. Unfortunately, back then, though, I couldn't fix myself. So I did try to fix other people. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. Most times it didn't. That doesn't mean it made it worse. But it means that I just couldn't. And then I would feel like a failure. Because I couldn't fix that. So we have to just give ourselves a break. We have to live. I'm so sorry. You don't know why my nose is just, like I said, I can go a whole morning. My nose is not, the minute I hit play on this or record, seriously. Anyway, this is what I wrote this morning. Because again, I was really struggling to find something to talk about. In fact, I even told older sibling it was not going to be a long show, but we're already 20 minutes in. But I was really struggling to find something. And then all of a sudden, it's just like, why are you trying, for this, the perfection thing? And I thought, I need to cancel today's show. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I said, no, I can't. I got to show people that, look, this is mental health in action. This is the Dingdom mental health in action. It's like you're saying, but she doesn't look sad. She doesn't look blue. When we come out of our shells and help people, it's a huge thing. And it makes us feel good to know that hopefully somebody, even if just one person out there, sees our message, that it will help them. And so there's just like this whole different personality, at least for me, that comes out. But I didn't want to do the show because I don't have, I'll be honest with you, I literally do not have the energy or the strength to do it right now. I am pushing beyond my limits. And I'm not doing the fake it till you make it. I mean, as you can tell, I'm not giggling as much. And I mean, I just have this personality that shines through from time to time. But this is what I wrote. I don't know why I keep ignoring it. I have a habit to go full speed ahead, but then I never cut the engines or slow them down. Wait, hold on. I wrote this so fast. So I have a habit to go full speed ahead, but then I never cut the engines or slow them down to rest. But we need that. The journey may not be easy, but we can still enjoy the view for a bit. So one more time. I have a habit to go full speed ahead, but then I never cut the engines or slow them down to rest. But we need that. We do need that. The journey may not be easy, but we can still enjoy the view for a bit. So older sibling and I were talking this morning, and I told her, I said, it's interesting because, I talk about my inner child, my floof, and then I talk about me. And I told her, I said, thank you for understanding how these two seem so separate right now and how I'm trying to bring them together as one person, just me, my inner child and I just finally becoming one. Instead of her holding the, all the baggage of all the bad things, just piling it on her. And so I'm trying to bring my inner floof and, the me now together to trust myself with my story. And I told her, it's just, but here's the thing. I told her, I said, I feel like this time, the way my therapist has me going back through all of my trauma, that this time, the inner child is going back through it. She's reliving these experiences, but she's reliving them through different eyes. She's reliving them with my strength that I've gained on the last time I had to take this journey through all this to heal it. But this time I'm bringing her along and I'm showing her, hey, you have the strength to get through this. You have the fortitude, I guess, to get through this. You have that power in you to take your power back. I learned that from older sibling. Take your power back. And I'm teaching that inner child, that subconscious part of us, or even the unconscious part, depending on, which one, Jung or Freud, but maybe both in my case. But I'm teaching this inner child, that I call the floof, how to have a different, how to take her power back, how to travel through this. And instead of feeling ashamed and sad and wanting to hide or crawl under a rock, I'm teaching her how to see it through the eyes of someone who has healed, and to not rake herself over the coals anymore for it, to not punish herself anymore for it. And I know it might sound strange, me referring to myself in two different, aspects, but that's how it feels. It feels like a very unfortunate disconnect. And what I'm trying to do is bring these two trains together so they can just connect and be on one track together. And it, like I said, is difficult. But my issue is, and I'm not sure if other people have it, but I'm going to share it in case you do. My issue is, I get so excited about things that I start chugging and chugging and chugging until I'm going faster and faster and faster. And I'm throwing coal in the fire. It's a steam engine, all right? It's not an electric engine, so you follow the metaphor here. But I'm throwing coal and coal and coal, and then what happens when you're out of coal, right? Your cup is empty. And then the train starts to slow down. And you're just hoping that it makes it to the next place so you can refill all this coal that you need. Because we don't take a moment to stop and rest. I've been plugging away every day since therapy. Reading a chapter a day, writing a chapter a day of my story, journaling on top of that, how I felt about that chapter. Plus, I'm keeping a journal, because even though I don't, follow organized religion, I still observe Lent for my mom. So I'm keeping a separate journal for that to kind of walk me through these changes I'm trying to make. So there's just so much happening and so much going on that I am literally putting so much on my shoulders that I'm not sure how much more I can carry. And that's why I woke up this morning and I was absolutely exhausted. I do get excited about things. I love to learn new things. This book I'm reading that the therapist suggested I read, it's blowing my mind. And I'm not even to the parts where, it's really going to dive into the things that I need to know about. It's talking about the brain. It's talking about how it reacts to things. It's talking about mental health. It's this amazingly beautiful but crazy experience. But it's a lot to take in because it's unlocking a lot of what's going on. It's unlocking a lot of things I didn't, touch on the last time I went through this type of therapy. And so I need to slow down. There's a fear in me that if I don't do something, I'm not going to get back to it. But maybe that's just it. Maybe that's the key for me. Is that I need to show myself that I can take a day to rest and then get right back to it tomorrow. I think it's starting to rain. I can hear it. But I think that's where we sometimes trip ourselves up. We get into our heads thinking, oh my God, if I don't do it today, what if I don't get back to it tomorrow? Take it one day at a time. Don't worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. Don't think about what's going to happen tomorrow. Don't think about what happened yesterday. Stay in where you are now. Stay right where you're at now. Because you never know. Maybe if you take this day to rest, you might decide, okay, tonight I'm going to get to chapter 4. I'm going to get to chapter 4 of the book, and I'm going to get to chapter 4 of my own book, my own story, and write that down. And that's all we can do. See, I'm not writing this book, for anybody but myself. These are the things I need to get out. And one of the first things I thought of is once I'm done with this, I really want to read back over it, and then I want to burn it. I want to burn it because it's not who I am anymore. These may be the things that made up the person I am, but they're not who I am anymore. No, well, all I'm trying to do is bring this inner floof up to the present day Shelley Marie, to show her it's okay to exist beyond the limitations that you have been placed on you because of what someone did to you. We don't have to live by those conditions anymore. We can be strong. We can be, anything we want to be. We can move past the pain. We can move past the hurt. But we have to be able to do that. And I don't want to say we have to be strong enough or brave enough, because there are people that try. And the people that try every day and don't seem to make any movement forward, that's bravery to me. Because these people are teetering on the edge. And, it takes a lot of strength to hang on. It takes a lot of strength to hang on. And I'm fortunate in the fact that I'm not there anymore. That I am on solid ground. I'm the one standing there saying, hey, I'm here if you need me. Or, maybe you're the one who's down below them putting out the safety net. So if they do let go, something will catch them. Because you want them still to be here. You want them to be able to hang on, because sometimes we just want them to have that epiphany, that moment where they say, hey, I am worth it. But there are people out there who struggle so hard in finding that. Maybe they don't have the support group they need. Maybe they need something to be angry about because there's so much pain. And I'm lucky that I've had people and friends who didn't walk away from me, who saw that I was struggling and said, hey, I'm going to do what I can to help you. I can't fix you, but I'm going to do what I can to help you. When we have people that give a shit about us, and we have people who won't leave our sides no matter how difficult we can become, that's a good support group. But if you are being difficult and you are fully aware that you're being difficult, if you want these people to stay also, you have to do the work too. But like I said, we can always slow down long enough to enjoy the view. The journey doesn't have to be as dark as we make it. There are still good things. You know, I mean, to be honest, there's so many wonderful things that happened to me growing up. You know, I had wonderful parents, I had a great family. You know, I'm an only child, but I had a lot of cousins. But because of the trauma, I zero in on the negative stuff instead of all the positive stuff. I zero in on all the bad things instead of all the good things. And, you know, that's where I need to be. And I'm finding that balance now. I'm starting to look back and say, whoa, you know what? There was a lot of fun things that did happen. There's a lot of great things I got to do. You know, I mean, almost every year I went to Disneyland for my birthday. My parents would ask me. At some point, they just stopped asking me and just started taking me. Except for my 13th birthday. My mom figured since I was getting into teenagehood, I should probably have a birthday party. And I had a few. I'm not saying that every year. A lot of times we'd go anyway, and I would still have a birthday party. But, it was just my happy place, you know, and it's a place I still love. I haven't been there in a while, but it's a place I still love because there are a lot of happy memories there. And maybe that's what we need to do is once we are able to face the pain, just start removing it, plucking it away, you know, just saying no more. But the only way I can do that for myself, and quite possibly other people out there who understand, you know, where I'm coming from, whether you have a dinged up mental health or not, is getting my inner child, my inner floof, to trust me. Once I learn how to trust myself with my story, it almost feels like the whole world is going to open up. In fact, it already feels now like the whole world is opening up because I am learning how to trust myself with my story. You know, think of, you know, it being like a feral animal. You know, somebody doesn't just walk up to a feral animal and the animal says, okay, pet me. No, it takes time. You're moving closer and closer to the goal, and the goal is moving closer and closer to you until you're able to just, you know, hug each other, I guess. You know, I have a vision of this video I saw once where this dog was a stray dog, feral dog, and the person thinks that that this dog was actually, you know, probably just abandoned when they were very young, like had a family but abandoned. And slowly but surely, you know, she went out there so patiently every morning, and, you know, every few days she would move that bowl closer and closer and closer to her, and she never pushed this dog. And now the dog is her fur baby. She adopted this dog, got him cleaned up, got him all his shots, everything, and he has a loving home now. But it took time. And it took patience. A lot of patience. But it also took trust on the dog's part. The dog had to learn that this person was not going to harm them. And sometimes when we go through all these traumatic things, there's that inner child in us that is so damaged that it doesn't want to trust anybody. So sometimes I feel like maybe we do, or maybe it's just me, that we go through life with two different types of personalities. That one that's been so hurt and damaged, and the one that's just trying to enjoy life. But it's that hurt and damage that sometimes trips us up and upends us, and then we lose our ever-loving mind. And so we have to figure out how to balance that, how to bring these two psyches together. And for me, it's been an adventure. But I do know that I have to trust myself, to give myself a break today, to take that time I need to just decompress from all the work I've been doing over the last week, since last Friday, and just take a moment. You know, I did a lot of heavy lifting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in my chapter writing. I mean, a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of emotional lifting. And it was very hard. But when I look back on it, I think, wow, I came through this so differently this time. You know, I was talking to a sibling about some of the things that I remembered, and I was so angry. And I said, if you could be in my head right now, you would just see this inner child, this inner floof, stomping her feet, just not throwing a tantrum, but just angry, just stomping her feet, like walking back and forth, just stomping her feet, going, really, 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 really? And I said, that is such an improvement over sitting in the corner in the dark, knees up to the chest, crying because they feel horrible about what happened, even though it wasn't their fault. And I know I'm talking about myself in the third person, but you know what? It's again, it's bringing these two psyches together, getting my inner child to trust me, getting this part of me that has carried this baggage and this anger and this sadness and this pain and this shame and all that other stuff for so long, and bringing them into the light so that I can go off, and we, you know, me and my inner child can go off and enjoy life, to get every fulfillment out of it. That doesn't mean my dinged up mental health is going to go away, but what it means is I am learning the tools to tackle these things better, to face them with, you know, that courage and that strength that so many people use every day instead of running away from it. And I think that's why sometimes I just try to power through, why I go at full speed without slowing down that train to enjoy the view, because I just want to get from point A to point B. Because it is hard, it is hurtful, it is painful. I'm not going to say it's none of those. It is. And having to relive this and having to go back through it, but through a different perspective, is still hard. But my recovery time is so much better. You know, and I am grateful. I just want to thank older sibling because, you know, she's always like, are you okay? How are you doing? Sometimes it drives me nuts because she asks so much. But it's because in the early days of my healing, years and years ago, before I really wanted to even acknowledge my mental health, I wouldn't talk about it. And then I would just let it build until poof, somebody would enter my crosshairs. I'm not proud of that person. But I understand that person now. I understand that person a lot better than I did, obviously, back then. When I was, you know, this nice, boom. It's like duck, duck, goose, right? It's like duck, 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 goose. But it was like nice, bad. Damage, broken, hurt, in pain. But I don't want to deal with it, so I'm just going to take it out on somebody else. I'm just going to verbally assault somebody. And like I said, I'm not proud of that. But if I don't share it, it's not being honest. If I don't share it, it's not going to help anybody who thinks, well, she doesn't act like that. No, I'm sharing that because there are other people out there. I mean, I didn't come up with the term hurt people, you know, hurt people. I saw it one day and it resonated so hard. I was like, oh my God, I got to start using that. Hurt people, hurt people. Which means I'm not alone. And maybe that's why it resonated, because I realized, oh my God, I'm not alone. There's somebody else out there admitting that hurt people. And I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to be the nice, bad. Right? Or that loving asshole. No, I want to be this person. And that doesn't mean we're not going to have our moments where we do lose our minds. But we're going to recover better. And maybe when we have these triggers, we're not going to take it out on something for something stupid. You know, like, oh, this is all your fault because you blinked at me. Exactly. And you're probably, you know, yeah, I mean, maybe that made you laugh. Maybe that made you giggle. Maybe it resonated on how silly some of the things we come up with to be angry about. And I just don't have that capacity anymore. I don't want to have that capacity anymore. I don't want to sit there in pain and then take it out on someone else. My stomach's growling. That's so funny. I don't know if I'm only saying that because sometimes you can hear it on the microphone, sometimes you can't. But just in case you're wondering. So anyways, I guess the moral of today's perspective, and kind of to sum up the week about healing and learning what we can do to find our way towards healing and to embrace it, is really just that. Embrace it. When we keep running, it's going to eventually find us. Think of it as like a horror movie, right? You run, you might trip, but you might get away, but that doesn't mean, then there's a sequel, right? And you're alive and poof, they're still after you. But what happens when you stop and face it? It's scary. It can be. And like I said, if you're not sure you can do it alone, seek professional help. Nobody has to know. Nobody has to know. Maybe the people in the waiting room might see you. Or, but nobody really has to know. And if you want them to, because you might need that support system, that's okay. If somebody doesn't understand it and kind of says, no, we don't do that, we don't talk about that, find somebody else. Don't stop at that one person. Sometimes people are afraid of their own shortcomings, that they don't want to acknowledge that somebody else might be having problems too. Or maybe they just don't want to feel like they failed you. That just hit my mind. So maybe my mom's here. I've talked about my struggles with my mom and my mental health. But I heard in my head her voice saying, I just thought I failed you. And she didn't. She failed me in that moment when I needed her. And I've been angry about that, and I was angry about that, and I have finally kind of made peace with that. Because I needed her. I needed her to be there for me when I told her, Mom, I have depression. We don't talk about that. But I also have to take into consideration the generation she grew up in. But then when I was talking to my dad recently, well, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, well, Mom told me not to. And I thought, what if I hadn't stopped with her? What if I had trusted somebody else with this news when I was 23 years old? What would the last 27 years have been like? I don't know. And I don't want to know. Because it worked out, I think, the way it was meant to work out. I'm here now, talking about all these things. I'm very open about how old I am because I want people to know that there is no time limit on healing. Whether you're 10 years younger than me, 10 years older than me, there's no time limit on healing. And we all deserve to have that. We all deserve to live this beautiful life without feeling like all the anchors of our past are holding us back. Without feeling like all this, we're trudging through the muck. Or trying to climb our way out of quicksand. With no one in sight to throw us a vine to pull us out. So, it's up to us. Ultimately, it's up to each individual to find a way to heal. And I know it's not easy for everyone. There are some diagnoses out there in the mental health umbrella that just, well, I already have curly hair, so I'm going to say that would just straighten my hair. Straight up. Because they're so wild. And I don't mean wild in like a funny, spirited way. I mean like, how do these people survive? Because that takes strength. For some of them, I see some of them and I think, wow, I wish you could see how strong you are to make it through every single day the way you do. But they won't believe it because their brains are lying to them. Just like my brain lies to me from time to time. But I'm learning how to take my power back. I'm learning how to take control. And it is a fine line of balance. But I think as we move forward and we acknowledge what we go through and, how hard some things can be, that's the biggest step. Trusting ourselves is going to be the biggest step. And I'm finally learning to trust myself. So, again, slow your train down, slow your boat down. Whatever it is that you are in your metaphor, whatever it is you're steering or driving, slow it down a little bit, okay? Because even though you're on this really rough journey, and in my case, going back through all this stuff to now, there's still some nice scenery out there. There's still a lot of scenery out there. There's still beautiful people out there that love you and care about you and who created wonderful memories for you. And I'm grateful that, I have a spiritual side. So I'm truly grateful that I finally heard this from my mother. And yeah, my mom's passed away. So you can say maybe it's just popped into your head, Shelley Marie. Or for those of you who believe like I do, maybe she is whispering it in my head. I just didn't want to feel like I failed you. And I thought I failed you. And I couldn't grasp that thought. So I thought the only way to move past that is to tell you just need to be strong. And I'm here to tell her if she's still listening, or, even if it's just my brain I'm talking to, however you want to view it. I don't push my views on other people. My mom didn't fail me. Could it have been better? Yes. Had she reacted differently? Yes. But this is why I'm telling you from my experience. Don't stop at one person, even if it's a person of authority, as older sibling and I were talking about this morning, who's in your life that you trust. Don't stop at them. Keep going until you find somebody. Like I said, I always wonder what would have happened if I said something to my dad. But we'll never know. And I can't live there. I can't live in that question, because that question will never be answered. You know, and like I said, and even my father says it, everything happens for a reason. And, you know, I know a lot of people don't like that term, but for me, it did. Because again, I'm here now, I'm healing now, I'm in this place where I can share with other people who might feel lost in their age that I can't change. You know, this is just how it's going to be. And I don't mean to poke fun at the way my head's moving. This is the way I used to think. Like, no. But it can be different. Age is just a number. Age just marks how long you've been on this planet and circling the sun. Don't let society's ideas about age slow you down or stop you from proceeding in the way you want. I mean, my therapist knows how old I am. She's like, well, you could be a counselor. And I thought, at my age? And she's all, girl, you're never too old to do anything. And I thought, well, and I do love to write, but I love to help people. You know, I mean, I was a peer counselor in high school. You know, people come to me all the time when they need someone to vent to or talk to or blow things by or, you know, and it's just maybe that's part of my gift. I mean, for the very brief stint I did in college, my dad wanted me to take something to fall back on, so I took psychology and I minored in writing and theater. But yeah, that didn't last long. But I don't know. I thought this was going to be a short show, but it's not. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. This really is a things to think on Thursday. And I want you to think on that. I want you to know that the only person who can truly help you is you. Because you've got to take those steps forward to ask for help. You have to be brave enough to listen when someone says, have you ever thought about maybe trying this? Or did you ever think that maybe this is a possibility? If someone comes up to you and says, you know, have you ever thought about the fact that you might have depression? Don't get angry. I did. Because I didn't want to admit it. Because again, I was conditioned to feel that way. No, only weak people are depressed. That's not true. The strongest people are the people, I think, who have depression, because we gotta move through the day. And I'm not saying that normal people aren't strong. They are. But there's a different kind of strength that we carry because we have to do a balancing act. Some days feel like we're walking a tightrope over the Grand Canyon, just like one of the Wallendas, right? And then you have all this crap piling on top of you while you're trying to cross this gorge without falling to your death. And you can read into that metaphor anything you want, because yeah, sometimes it's exactly what happens. Some people just don't have any more strength to give, and we lose them. But the sooner we destigmatize mental health, the sooner we start to understand it and choose to understand it, whether you have a normal person brain or a dinged up mental health, the sooner we might be able to take this out of the top fucking 10 of things that kill people in this country. And excuse my language on that, but it shouldn't be there. Even in this book that I'm reading, the man was saying, for all the breakthroughs and all the things and all the textbooks we have, how is this still a top killer of people? How is this still a top thing, mental health, that affects people? We should be talking about it. We should be normalizing it. You know, we shouldn't get offended every time somebody says something wrong, or maybe says crazy or wild or whatever. I know it's hard because it can be a trigger. But this is what we have to move through. We can't just sit there and tongue lash somebody because they used a word. No, what we have to do is educate people. And the less people feel stigmatized, the less they're going to lash out like a feral animal. because they're being heard, they're being seen. And for someone my age who was raised, in a different mindset than we have now, mental health wasn't talked about. It was swept under the rug even when I was growing up. We didn't talk about it. We whispered about it. Because that's what we did. We whispered about it. Because you didn't want anyone else to know that maybe there was some kind of weird dark cloud hanging over your family. Right? So, I don't know why I say that all the time, right? So, maybe it's a California thing. I have no idea. But anyways, this is it. These are your things to think on Thursday. Let's start normalizing the talk about mental health, and let's stop stigmatizing people and making them feel bad about themselves. Because the more we do that, the less we're helping them, and the more we're going to end up keeping suicide as number 10 on the top 10 things that kill people in this country. Along with cancer and strokes and unintentional accidents and all that. It should not be there. It should not. I wish I knew what number 11 was. I do, but I couldn't find it anywhere. That was just the top 10 things. So I'll probably have to dig a little harder, dig a little deeper, right? But we can do it. We just have to care about one another. Kindness goes a long way. And I'm talking about people who have a dinged up mental health, and I'm talking about people who don't have a dinged up mental health. Whether you have one or the other, or both, or don't, whatever, kindness goes a very long way. Very long way. All right. So I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Please, please, please take care of yourselves. For those of you that will not be joining Oracle Friday tomorrow, Oracle Friday is 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelley Marie Lucas. Anybody can watch. Oracle Fridays are kind of fun, and I only work from a good place. So if you're curious, just pop on in, or I share these to my Facebook page, The Aloha Perspective, and to my YouTube channel, The Aloha Perspective with me, Shelley Marie Lucas. So feel free to go to either if you're curious about that. I don't normally post the oracles to Twitter, so if you want to see it, you gotta go to YouTube, and while you're there you could click and subscribe. So anyways, tomorrow will be Oracle Friday. If you are going to join me tomorrow for that, and there's something you feel like you need answered, just put it up there, and hopefully they'll give me an answer through whatever decks I feel compelled to pull from tomorrow. If not, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I will be safe this weekend. Be careful. Mind your health, mind your tongue if your mental health is not in tip-top shape. And I'll see everybody back here Monday. Same time, same place, same back channel. So, again, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging in there and for watching. And really for kind of following along this week. I know healing is not the easiest thing that we can do. But that doesn't mean we can't enjoy the view along the way. All right. So happy healing, and I will see everybody or tomorrow or Monday. Have a great day.